Good morning, and thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson, and today we're going to be talking about the Apostle John. We just concluded our 3-week study, discussion of the life of Peter and his intersection, his relationship, the arc of his relationship with Jesus. And I thought we might take some time to look at the rest of the apostles. We're only going to spend a few days on Paul, but we'll do that at the end of our study of the apostles. Although we do have lots and lots of biographical information about Paul, the man who told us he forgets everything that's behind certainly talks a lot about his past. Anyway, I thought we'd take a couple of days to talk about the apostle John. John's gospel and letters are among the most beloved portions of the New Testament. If anyone knows one verse from the New Testament, it's John 3:16. And of course, his apocalypse, the book of Revelation that ends the New Testament, has never been lacking in attention in any era since it was written at the end of the first century. What I thought we would do is today talk about the biographical information we have of John, and then tomorrow talk about John's personal, private relationship with Jesus, the loving relationship he had with Jesus, which he talks about in some detail. And he also tells us that he believes he and the other gospel writers can share that relationship with us in fullest measure because of the miracle of the written word inspired by the Holy Spirit. Well, when we meet John, he's a fisherman on the Sea of Galilee. He and his brother own a boat, or at least are working on the boat of his father. His older brother James, and I call him an older brother because he's always mentioned first in the list. His older brother James and he are the sons of a man called Zebedee. So it may be their father's boat that they're fishing in. They're the fishing partners of Peter and Andrew. So Peter and James are the big brothers, and Andrew and John are the little brothers. Jesus is called, along with the other three, to follow Jesus. Of course, as we learn from John's gospel, John himself tells us Andrew was the first to follow Jesus. We'll talk about that when we talk about Andrew in a few days. We know that his father's name was Zebedee. We know that he and his brother had a reputation for quick-temperedness and impetuosity. We always associate that with Peter, but we're going to see some episodes where John himself is guilty of a quick draw, wanting to shoot from the hip. In fact, they were called the sons of thunder. We're told in Mark, chapter 3, verse 17, because of this characteristic of the brothers. And we'll talk about that in just a second. We know perhaps a bit about his mother. We know from Matthew chapter 27, verse 56, that their mother was at the cross along with the other women disciples who were there. That's important because Jesus is going to give his own mother into the care of the Apostle John, which John himself tells us in John chapter 19. Well, when that happened, John's own mother was standing right there. We are also told that there was a woman named Salome at the cross among the disciples in Mark chapter 15, verse 40. And so since ancient times, that Salome has been identified as the mother of James and John. The New Testament does not draw that connection, but it's certainly possible that that was the name of his mother. But his mother was at the cross. In Mark chapter 10 and in Matthew chapter 20, James and John's mother, or James and John themselves, asked Jesus to sit at his right hand and his left hand when he becomes king. And of course, they don't know what they're asking. And it speaks to their great level of impertinence and a bit of hubris on the part of both of them. Jesus says, "Are you able to drink the cup I'm going to drink?" And they said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, then you're going to drink it, but it's not in my power to give you a seat at my right or left hand. It's only my Father's." And then in Luke chapter 9, We have the episode where John mentions in verse 49 that he sees someone casting out evil spirits in Jesus' name and tries to stop him from doing it. And Jesus says, don't hinder him. Who is not against us is for us. And then in verses 51 through 56, there's the episode where the Samaritans won't let Jesus come preaching in their area. And John says, do you want me to call down fire from heaven and destroy these people? And so the loving, tender-hearted man that we come to know later on in Scripture is not the man whom we meet in the Gospels, but he is beloved by Jesus. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. Jesus gives into his care the keeping of his own mother, and that's what we know of John from the Gospels. We also know very little of him from the book of Acts. John was one of the three, Peter, James, and John, that were the inner circle of Jesus, his closest friends. They were there when he raised Jairus' daughter. They were there on the Mount of Transfiguration. They went with him into the garden. But in the book of Acts, John is basically Peter's silent partner when Peter goes about in the early chapters of the book of Acts, healing the lame man and going before the Sanhedrin. There they are partnered together. We don't really know more of John until the end of the first century when he writes 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, his Gospel, and the book of Revelation. History tells us he was associated with the province of Asia, particularly the city of Ephesus. He was a mentor and a trainer up of Polycarp, who would be one of the early Christian martyrs, and Polycarp in turn trained up Irenaeus. And Irenaeus says that John defended the faith from false teachers all those years, particularly against a man named Cerinthus. We know from the book of Revelation that he's a quarry slave at the end of his life on the Isle of Patmos, and evidently that's where he dies. Well, I've given you 7 good minutes today, but it took that long to get my material in. I apologize. I only preached 23 minutes, so there you go. Tomorrow we'll talk about John's personal relationship with Jesus, and I'll try to give you your time back. Thank you for joining me today.